Plymouth Plantation reminds us of the commitment that the early pilgrims made when they came to America in the first place, to literally carve out a civilization out of a wilderness, and to do it on the basis of the Bible and for the cause of Jesus Christ and for the purpose of spreading the gospel in the New World. It was here in Massachusetts that God planted those pilgrims who ultimately planted a nation that would become the greatest nation in the world.
Our great nation was founded on the principles of the Word of God, the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the freedom to express and embrace those truths. Yet today, our Christian heritage is being challenged. The heart of Thanksgiving has been ripped out, and revisionist pseudo-historians are trying to say none of this is true. Today on The King is Coming, our study on who stole our Christian heritage concludes with the probing question, who secularized America?
The question is often asked, who secularized America? If this nation was founded by Christian believers, built on the principles of the Word of God, and has grown under the blessing of God, who dares to say that God ought to be eliminated from public life in America, that the secular course is the right course for the future? And some today have even criticized America to say that America is no longer the leader of the world. A book of that example, The Post-American World, by Fareed Zakaria, a commentator on CNN, who himself came to America from another country in 1982, who grew up in America under the blessings and opportunities of this nation, and then dares to criticize the nation. As far as I'm concerned, the Philadelphia Inquirer says it's prophetic brilliance, near perfect clarity, and a stirring eloquence in this book. To me, it's small-minded, narrow-thinking, secular, myopic view of what is really happening in America today. And instead of saying that America ought to become nothing more than part of the global family, that America is not really the leader, that America doesn't stand for any principles that are really any better or different than any other nation, I say it's time to get back to the Word of God and the things of God and the principles that made this nation great in the first place. Oh, Christ can be criticized, God can be eliminated, the church can be chastised. Where did all of this come from? This flood of unbelief that we are bombarded with today. Books by atheists and skeptics and critics and mystics who want to remove all religious symbols from American life, all religious quotes from public buildings because they infringe on the beliefs of others. Well, what about the people who believe in those things? What about their beliefs that are being infringed upon? What about their history? That is really the history of what has made this nation great in the first place. No, our society is being corrupted by laws that accommodate an ungodly lifestyle. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals recently ruled that the Pledge of Allegiance was unconstitutional because of the words, one nation under God. We need to stand, they said, for the separation of church and state, etc. But the separation of church and state does not mean separating the church from the state. It means separating them from controlling the state. Nobody's asking to set up a theocracy. Nobody's asking that people be forced to accept Christianity or even to support it. No, that's the decision that is made from the heart by faith in the message of the Word of God. But in our schools today, we're told to tolerate homosexual teachers. Schools are required to produce pro-homosexual literature without even asking for parental consent. The Supreme Court has decriminalized sexual crimes. Political correctness is in, and biblical incorrectness is out. No, the Bible reminds us there is coming a time in the future when the minds of people will be blinded by the God of this world. People will end up defending trees and whales and seals, but not marriage or the family or the unborn. Why? Because man is essentially moralistic at his heart and core. He's created in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, he is concerned about moral issues. But when those moral issues are not defined by the Word of God, man makes up his own moral basis of judging issues in life. And all of a sudden, we're more concerned about the creation than we are about the Creator. You go to our schools today, and what do you find? Prayer is out, but policemen are in the hallways. The Bible is out, but drugs are prevalent. The Ten Commandments are not allowed, but lying, stealing, and cheating are prevalent. Creation dare not be taught, but evolution tells people you're nothing more than an animal. And then we're shocked when they want to live that way. Traditional values are out, abortion is in, real history is gone, revisionism is in, and people are concerned about everything and anything except God. Secularism and mysticism and emptiness have led to such an attitude of unbelief that our society is desperate without God, blinded by the God of this world. Crime is prevalent. Kids are in danger. Society is crumbling. Marriages are falling apart. Hearts are empty. Lives are desperate. Why? It's all the consequences of unbelief. The influence of unbelief in our society has taken away any reason to even be thankful, to be grateful. We gather on a holiday like Thanksgiving, and many people aren't even sure why they're thankful or for what they're thankful. And in many cases, they are not thankful. They're simply interested in indulging themselves, and God has been forgotten. The whole meaning and purpose of this season of the year has been eliminated from our lives. And yet I would remind you that 40 years ago, one of the great theologians, philosophers, and thinkers of the Christian world predicted that all of this would eventually happen. When I was a student in college, Francis Schaeffer came to our school from Switzerland. He gave a lecture in which he suggested that when our generation came to the end of its rationalism, it would come to the end of its rationality. In other words, when the ideas of modern society had failed, we would enter a postmodern era where people would believe anything and everything except the truth. He began to talk about such things as defacing the body, about seances and witchcraft and demonism and mysticism. And I remember sitting there in a classroom in the 1960s thinking, come on, man, you're getting carried away. You're going a little too far with this. Surely people aren't that stupid, that wild, that erratic, that irrational. And I would like to say to you 40 years later, people really are that stupid. People really are that irrational. Ours is an irrational era where the very things that made America great are now being shoved aside as though they're unimportant, inconsequential. It's time for us to get back to the truth and back to what made this country great in the first place.